Hey, what's
Hello?
up there? It's happy Drinko-de-Mayo. We're doing a little WarHAMMERED hangout tonight for Cinco de Mayo, doing a little cultural appropriation for the evening. Well, at least I am. I got my booze and got some painting. We got Martin Orlando, we got Bob, we got Maroc, and a whole plethora of other people that have been invited but have not yet shown up. But cheers to all of you. So I know we off air we already kind of went over what we're all working on, but what are we all working on?
I am working on a Celestial Vindicator's Lord Aquiller.
I'm working on all kinds of ghosties.
Ah, very nice. And I think Rock
I'm
is working on not dying.
well, there's that, and I've got a competition piece that I'm working on right now. I'm
Ooh.
redoing it's for single character category.
Mhm.
So I'm revisiting Batrock again for like the third time. So essentially it's just like a source old blood that I've turned into Batman. So here's what I have so far. If that'll show up. So I've
We can see
sculpted
it.
the cape and all the scales, did his midsection and whatnot, and I still have to do arms, and currently I'm working on the base and how he's going to be pinned to that base.
So what is the competition for?
It's
Where
just a painting competition. The
is it like
our local store runs them every now and then, and you get like a gift certificate or whatever for the store.
and by local you mean like 5 hours away?
No, like we actually have an FLGS like here in town. It's
Ah,
like 10 minutes away from my house, but it's not just a miniature store. It's like a comic book store and a used bookstore and like Magic the Gathering and all that stuff. Like he sells like everything from like action figures to hockey cards, and like there's no actual space in there to do like any gaming whatsoever because he's just got so much stuff.
Does he have the Brad Marchand licking people card?
uh, not that I've seen.
and
Yeah,
Dez is here and he's not dead.
I made it. I definitely
he's not
went
dead.
into a little tequila coma.
I
Hey,
just
Des, nice to
actually named one of my ghosts after you, Des. Thought you were gone for good.
Hi, Des. Nice to finally see you in person.
Good evening.
Of Twitter fame.
Of Twitter fame. Am I Twitter famous? I don't think so.
I mean, Warhammer Twitter famous.
Maybe. Drink.
It's always interesting to like be like randomly recognized by people. They're like, "Oh, you like have a YouTube channel?" Like, yeah, I do.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, and then you turn around and go, "Thanks, Mom."
Nice.
Mhm.
Uh,
So what are you working on, Des?
I think I'm going to build some Sky Wardens, even though I don't have all the bits I want.
Those Sky Wardens, those curmudgeonly, meh. Let me tell you, I played against Karajon for the first time on Wednesday in a local league. And turn one, Sky Wardens nuked one of my units of Fulminators.
wow.
That's
Yes.
the job. Were they buffed by the chemist? Was there 12 of them with volley cannons and drill guns?
There were 6 of them.
Wow.
And the only one had a drill cannon. The rest had, I think, Aether shot volley guns. Mainly my dice suck, but that still doesn't change the fact that they nuke them. And I didn't want that to happen. My Fulminators had a 1+ save, but that's not good enough.
Yeah, the drill cannons are -3. The rotary cannons are -1. Yeah. You just had the ones.
Uh-huh.
But that was a poop joke. I didn't mean to make.
But it happened, so there it is.
Yeah, they're fun. I want to make mine. I have to find sanguinary guard wings, which are I might as well just go gold mining in my backyard.
There's a good bits website called Bits and Kits. They're a UK website. I get most of my bits from them. In fact, I got a bunch of rare Stormcast bits this week when they had a restock, so I don't have to buy a 3rd Star Dragon, just so I can get like the sword and some heads.
Here we go. I'm looking right now.
Uh-huh.
I want them so I can make. You ever see the old Flash Gordon movie from the 80s?
Yep.
I remember that meme when Stormcast first came out.
Dive. Yeah, I want to make them all look like that. Let's see.
You need to make sure that you actually name one of the airships Ajax.
Yep.
It might actually.
You can dispatch War Rocket Ajax to bring back Flash's body.
Oh, they don't have any.
What about those like Scourge dudes from the Dark Eldar line?
Yeah, those wings are really. I thought about that too, and I just gave up because I remember looking for them a long time ago and not finding them. Those are great too.
And if you can't find those, what about the old Bretonnian Pegasus Knight wings?
Those are harder to find than Sanguinary Guard wings.
And they might be too big.
Oh, yeah? Really? Oh, they're not that big. I used to put those on my Wood Elves when I didn't feel like buying a shit ton of Warhawk Riders.
Yeah, but still, because Bretonnians are extinct, they're harder to get.
So, yeah, their prices are not that ridiculous, though, the last time I looked. Because they're extinct. Like, it might be a little bit harder to find things, but like the prices are just don't seem
and they're also no longer good. They used to be really good. That's why Tomb Kings cost a fortune.
Oh yeah, they're really good. Yep. And let's see the bat wings up here, but I mean, compared to, let's see if we can do this. I was going to use my phone today. Maybe I should have. So we got the little one of my engine riggers right there. So if you put the Sanguinary Guard wings up to it, they're like perfect.
Yeah,
that'll work well.
I've only got a few.
Fuck, what the hell is that stuff called? It would be a total pain in the ass, but if you can't find them, there's this mold stuff.
I've got it here.
Yeah, maybe you should do that and use some epoxy and see how it works out.
It's funny because I've got 3 of them, and they're all, I think, left-hand wings or right-hand wings. They don't match. But that actually might be a good trick, so I can make some. Maybe I can cast them in reverse.
Des, is there anything in the Mantic line that might have wings like that?
The Basilians. I took a quick peek at them too.
They'd be fairly inexpensive for you to get. And
Dark Eldar Scourges aren't that expensive either.
Oh, good.
The Sanguinary Guard too, you can get for like $25 on eBay. And I buy the whole kit for wings. I don't know. I guess I would.
Yeah, but you could like chop up the rest of the bits and use them for other shit. Like you play 40K.
Yep.
You have an orc army too, don't you? So that's like
that's
free basing material right there.
That's true. Oh, there's some Basilians on here. Those wings, I did look at them too. I've got another pair of set of wings here. I don't know what these are from, and they look pretty cool, but I'm not sure if it's too much on the model.
I'm not sure what those are from. What are those, Aether Wings?
You know what these are from? Do you remember that game that came out a long time ago that failed?
Probably not.
Yeah, it actually wasn't. It was a few years ago, and they tried to make it like so you could play with your tablet and you're playing a miniatures game.
Oh, something Arcana.
Yeah.
Nope, it wasn't that one. I know which one you're talking about. Or maybe it was that one. I don't know. I don't know. It was from that old game, and these wings are really nice and detailed too. And that game didn't do too well. Never caught on. I think it was expensive or something. Maybe it's cost of entry.
Yeah, needing to have a tablet is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That new card game for Age of Sigmar is going to have augmented reality mechanics in it.
Really?
Yeah, they were talking about it on stream yesterday. And they're going to be showing off the, I believe, the augmented reality component at Warhammer Fest, which is next weekend.
Nice.
Which is probably where we're going to see a preview for something 40K related, possibly Space Wolves or Orcs.
Squats.
We already got squats. They just went to fantasy.
Yeah, that's true. Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
Is there anything in the 40K lore that made the squats actually go away, or are they still like around lore wise and just never?
Technically, 40K just put out a squat model for Necromunda, so they're in there.
The thing is that they say that the Tyranids came through and ate all the squats. But I think that's where I was joking around, and they use all that biomass and they recycle it.
So basically, squat gene stealer cults.
Yep. Or short stealers.
Short stealers. Step 1, steal underpants. Step
Short
2,
stealers.
Step 3, profit.
Yep.
The Bart Simpson method of taking over the universe.
I forgot about that. Oh my god.
That's all he says. Eat my shorts.
Yep.
Back when The Simpsons and South Park were good.
Back in the day, when cartoons were funny.
Oh, cartoons are still funny. It's just those that aren't.
Back in the day, there used to be a cartoon called The Animaniacs, which was written by people who wanted to make themselves laugh more than the children they made the show for.
Well, that is being redone. That will be a new show for Hulu, apparently, later this year.
Yeah.
Well, that should be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It came to Netflix, and I watched some of it, and I was like, holy crap, was this not directed at children?
Hell
No.
yeah.
Like, they made an episode about Apocalypse Now that only my parents understood because they went to film school and understood who they were making fun of.
Yeah. There's so many jokes in that show that, like, I was an adult watching it, like, 6 months ago.
You had to Google it.
I still think one of my favorite episodes is them going around to, like, yard sales and trying to buy people's yards because it's a yard sale.
I remember that. That's funny.
Pinky and the Brain was right awesome, too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
My
Yo,
God.
Bobby. Good fellas. Good feathers. I used to know, apparently my neighbor back in the Brooklyn days was the person who voiced Bobby on the Good Feathers.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
Oh yeah, back in the day when nobody actors like John Turturro, Paul Giamatti, Steve Buscemi, they were all my neighbors. But back then, they weren't very famous either. They were just theater actors. Paul Giamatti's a bigger sci-fi fan than I am. He was on Colbert about a month ago talking about Avram Davidson. Who's like a science fiction author of like 2-bit, what we would call 2-bit bullshit, but they wrote in the 1970s and early 1980s. I think as early as the late 60s. Or it's like, like the 2-cent paperback stuff that you'll just like pass over in someone's library.
Yep.
Yeah, Paul Giamatti is just dozens upon dozens of those books. He says it's like a book's not worth buying if you can't smell the mold in it. Yes.
That's why used bookstores are the best.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I kind of have the opposite end of that. My second hobby is collecting art reference books, which is the reason why no one will ever help me move when I need to leave this apartment to go to another one, because I have probably about my body weight in hardcover art books between video games, television, movies, and nonfiction like museum catalogs.
Have you seen Court of the Dead?
No, but that sounds very generic and could be a very great many things.
Well, it's a book that caught my eye on Amazon last year, and it was incredibly well developed in terms of the art. And I decided to pick it up. I just started reading it recently. It's really interesting. It's all about the realm of the dead, and it sort of treats all beings that are not all beings, but it treats celestials and infernals as sort of in the same camp, and death.
And this
himself,
is just
death.
Is this like a regular art book, or is this for like a universe or a lore?
Well, that's just it. I picked it up thinking it was an art book, and in reality, there's a story, but it definitely looks like coffee table art reference book quality.
Gotcha.
And after reading through this whole thing where death is basically just a mediator between the angels and the demons, I thought, hey, this has actually got a great story. The artwork is, like I said, why I bought it. Because I used to be a photographer, so I have a lot of those types of photography books. Well, they just started a Kickstarter. It's actually a game now, too.
Oh, wow. Sounds great.
But check it out for the art.
Mm-hmm.
Sideshow, the company that makes like the Seth MacFarlane Spawn collectible statues and everything, they're doing a bunch of statues based off this Court of the Dead thing, and it really again has that art reference book quality. Even the pages feel like some of my best photography art reference books.
Wow. Yeah, I actually had to go to I sometimes make trips to Chinatown and New York City to a store which basically sounds like a shell company, but it's not. It's called Oriental Customs Incorporated, and it's a Chinese bookstore. And the first time I went in there, the proprietor didn't speak English, so she had to go get her grandson, and even he didn't get that much English. But once they realized I was actually in there just to take my time and not like I actually look like I wanted to be there rather than I got my lost or something. Like I found the section of the store I was looking for like clothing, arms, armor, stuff like that. She got me a chair. She got me like something to drink. I was just like, wow, very not used to that sort of hospitality like in a bookstore.
Especially in New York.
Yes. But this is not a normal place in New York, that's for sure. Because it was like deep into Chinatown, felt like another world. But that's how I get a lot of my museum reference pieces for like the actual Chinese stuff. And it's a little bit of what I like. I try and take the colors and how the colors are arranged, because some of the patterns are not meant for 28mm scale. Like I couldn't really recreate some of the fabric patterns in those books. That
no way.
Yeah, it's not meant for it. Like it would become too busy and you'd lose a lot of the detail you tried to achieve. Yeah.
You know what I should do? Actually, look at our chat room and see if there's anybody here.
Yeah, that's why I started up my other machine.
Looks like we do not currently have anybody chatting, but we do have people watching. So hey, people watching.
Hey, happy Cinco de Mayo, people watching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we know what we're all working on. What are we all drinking?
I am wasting away in Margaritaville.
I'm drinking water because I'm already working on a hangover.
I'm drinking water because I'm working on precise painting, and I don't want to be any sort of inebriated while I'm doing this.
It's not a bad plan. I'm working on Nurgle stuff, so I don't care how drunk I am.
So technically, you're also working on a hangover. Yours is just going to be finished tomorrow.
Yeah.
I really hope not, because I have like another third of this paper to finish tomorrow and actually like do my citations and shit. So that's fun.
Citation.
Well, just, from a perspective of friends of yours, we hate your class.
Yes, I agree. But hopefully this is going to be the most taxing course of the everything. I can just take electives that are easy from here on out.
The most taxing course of your tax course. That's funny.
But
Funny what you did there.
Yeah.
Ignore.
Yeah. So when are you going to sign up for Triumph?
I need to do that really soon because I've heard it's running out of spots.
Nice.
For the moment. Yeah. For those watching who are not aware, Triumph is a 2-day Age of Sigmar event organized by Mythicos Studios, which is a game store in northern New Jersey. Marketing and just volunteer work helping out for the Age of Sigmar portion. We recently hit 30 prepaid entries out of our initial 40. So if you were still thinking about it, go to triumphgt.com. You can buy your ticket there. It's $50. Whether you want to play 40K, Age of Sigmar, or Bolt Action, we'll have plenty of stuff for the entire weekend. That's going to be June 9th and 10th. It's coming up quick. Just bought all of the scenery dice we'll need from, Ben Curry sells those, the 6-sided scenery dice for Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, I need to actually buy some of those.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're using some scenery.
Oh, yeah, we're definitely using the scenery rules because they are part of the core rules.
Yep.
Yeah, so as far as like tournament pack and all of that stuff, are you doing basically like the missions out of the GHB 2017?
Yeah, so we have a pack on the website, which you'll be able to see if you go there. So we have 6 predetermined scenarios, which we'll be utilizing from both General's Handbook 1 and 2. We tell you what scenarios are going to be in use, but we also tell you 6 scenarios, which means that you have to plan for one that won't get used to that weekend, just to, keep you on your toes. We'll, of course, be providing hard copies of the scenarios in individual folders for players, so they don't have to. I mean, you do need your General's Handbook. We will be using the General's Handbook 2017, like match play rules and like the rules of one, stuff like that. But all the scenarios, like, because there's going to be scenarios from older books in use, we'll have references for every player available. There's like scoring, like for battle points, paint points, sportsmanship points, secondary objectives and tertiary objectives for each mission. And yeah, that's I think that's about it. Yeah, but there's going to be plenty of prizes, probably around $4,000 in prizes, as I'm allowed to say, thanks to our generous benefactor. Yeah, we had a blast last year. Everyone who attended walked home with something, whether they won or lost. Something similar may end up happening this year. Certainly on a grander scale, because we're expecting between all game systems like 90 people to show up, which would be fun.
Nice.
And yeah, then we become like almost a con at that point, almost like the boys, which is wild. Because especially since this event's only like, this is our second year. This is not a venerable institution that is having games. And it's also New Jersey. New Jersey is not a place where a lot of organized play has taken place in the past on a large scale.
Well, kudos to you for being able to know really how to run an event and have that kind of success, because there's just too many that are poorly thrown together. And I think that overall drags the hobby down. So,
Thank you.
Anyone who hasn't signed up for that, get on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like me and Des.
Des might want to come too.
Yep.
Yay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't want to take any congratulations yet, because again, we only ran it once so far, and yes, that went off without a hitch last year, but this year it's like turning into a proper, like, a big event. Like last year we had around 15, 16, and that was just for Age of Sigmar. There was no 40K, there was no bolt action. So this year it's definitely like, I don't know, it might as well be the first time, because this is going to be the first time we're dealing with a lot of people in the same room.
Mhm.
Well, if it's anywhere near a campground where I can bring my RV, then maybe I will attend.
It is in Ledgewood, New Jersey.
I would probably need like a map or something, but that sounds great.
Yeah. It's new to me too. It's near Parsippany. It's in North Jersey. It's not anywhere in the Philadelphia area for those who have a phobia for such things.
We were talking about...
This is philophobia? Is that what you're saying?
Some people just don't like Philadelphia.
Well, they need to watch more It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and that will fix that problem.
Yeah, and just don't be anywhere near it anytime one of their sports teams wins or loses a major event.
They are considered in most sports press as the worst city for sports fans, which
Yes,
is kind of surprising in some ways, but not so surprising in other ways.
there is a special court called Fan Court at Eagles games where people can be fined or suspended or have their season tickets revoked depending on their bad behavior. Like, there's actually like judicial process that they go through at the event, which is really silly. But no other sports venue in the country has something like that.
That was in an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Funny.
Yeah, that's real.
That's also real sad.
Yes. Yeah, that's unfortunately a real thing. I've never seen it, but I know it's a thing because they reported about it on the local news. Like, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago when they started to implement it. It was just like, really? Really? Yeah.
Philadelphia is a special place.
Yes. And I say this much because I live about 15 minutes from Philly.
Yeah.
Like I live right over the water. Like the Philadelphia International Airport is within eyesight of my house if I just drive to a place where there aren't that trees facing the Delaware River. Which is also a curse because every time I hear a plane, it's just like, that could be a plane going to England, and I'm not on it.
Yeah. Back on the Warhammer world.
Yeah.
I spent 3 months in Reigate outside of London. I would move there in a heartbeat. Hello, Reigate. Go Crystal Palace Eagles. And, go Captain Sensible from the Damned if you're watching, because of course you would be.
Mm-hmm.
But England is how I got actually hooked on 40K, because when I was in Reigate, GW was so popular, I was able to pick up the very first 40K orcs that I had ever purchased from a pharmacy. I mean, we're talking a little mom and pop pharmacy like you'd find in a local small town here in the UK or in the US. and I was actually able to get my 40K stuff there, and it was amazing.
When was this?
28, I think.
Maybe in the early to mid 90s.
Wow.
And Reigate was a great town because it was far enough away from London that they didn't get a lot of people from the US. So if I walked into a pub and started a conversation, I would end up spending the evening at the pub just chatting with people because they'd never met an American. It was a great experience. And I've always wanted to move back there because, like I said, I kind of lived there for 3 months. Or Antwerp in Belgium. Both just amazing, amazing places.
Wow. Now, was Warhammer World a thing when you were over there?
It was not.
It was not open yet. Okay.
Right. I mean, like there was 40K everywhere. I was already a Blood Bowl player, so there was a guy that was over there that gave me every single team I didn't already own. And I still have like a lot of the original Blood Bowl figures that the guy gave me. And, the GW store was in London itself was huge.
Yeah. I went to it. Might be a different store now. The one in Tottenham Court Road.
Just because of the name. Totally worth going to any place named Tottenham Court Road.
So that was it? It's the same one?
I don't recall, honestly.
Okay.
I do know that I went to the Tottenham station a fair bit, so probably.
Okay. Yeah, I went there. Actually, when I went in 2016, when I went to England by myself, that was the weekend the very first General's Handbook came out. I met people there that I met through the Age of Sigmar Facebook group, and we went and had lunch. I thought that was really cool. I didn't have long enough time to play a game with them, but it was still nice to actually meet them. I still talk to them regularly, like on social media. And I thought that was just like the wildest thing, where it's like we actually met through Warhammer.
Well, I think it's pretty cool because when I was there, gaming for a long time here in the US had a negative stigma of being something that was for really geeky people, and some people got picked on for playing D&D or for playing minis games, and it's only really now sort of come into vogue.
Yeah.
But there it was always accepted. I was actually going and playing D&D with groups in Reigate when I was there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely like, because I went to go basically live at Warhammer World, and I definitely felt like at home there. Like, and all of these people now that we only see at conventions, which we treat like celebrities, like the Warhammer community team, you just want to go up and say hi. But because I was there during the entire week, most of the time they have meetings. Like they have a restaurant and bar, or they would call it a pub, called Bugman's, and the place would open at 10, and of course the workday had already started for them. So I would see people when I walked into Bugman's at 10 o'clock in the morning, but they would be having meetings. So it's like, I know I'm not allowed to really go up. I probably shouldn't go up next to them to try and eavesdrop on those conversations, because they could be talking about new stuff. Later, do you realize they're only allowed to talk about certain things on the floor, like things you can talk about in Bugman's, things you can't talk about in Bugman's, because they have levels and layers to this stuff, like a conspiracy theory. Because, well, you know how it is with the new stuff. It's very hard to get leaks these days.
I would too.
Well, I mean, all the old leaks were clearly coming directly from them anyway.
Yeah.
I have no way of knowing that. I mean, but still, they've stopped.
Yes. They stopped mysteriously as soon as they actually started openly engaging with the public.
Yeah.
I went to Games Day in Chicago once, in the hotel I was staying in. Jess Goodwin was staying there too, and I was sitting right next to him, and he had his sketchbook open. He's showing people. It was awesome. That was before the last wave of Dark Out, the newer way where they did all the scourges and everything. That was
Dark Eldar.
Yep. That was pretty fun to, like, peek over and see all the stuff that was coming down the pike, or that he, did sketches for, that we didn't know was, coming.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully those start again with the new Warhammer Cafe. Because that seems to be what the cafe is for.
Yep.
Because it's not big enough to hold events. It's just like a battle bunker.
Yep.
Like, it only has like 15 tables.
So you think that's where they're going to organize all these events out of?
I think so. From what my Games Workshop store manager told me, because she's seen it already.
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't say like she knew about any events were coming, but she said like she got the impression that's like it feels like the return of a battle bunker.
Yeah.
And it's because it's immediate proximity to an international airport.
Yep.
She's like, well, maybe it's for like Golden Demon, or maybe they'll do like mini games days there, just like weekenders, like the Black Library ones, or they just have all the Black Library authors talk about new stuff for a weekend. They could do something like that.
We could do that in our area too. We're crazy, like the Springfield or even the Northern Connecticut. It's just at the middle of everything.
Well, we have, we do have the possibility of setting up some kind of a good con in this area, because we'd also get some folks from Eastern New York, and
yep.
The group that I used to be involved with, because I was primarily a role player for a long time, and there was a group that I got involved with where we ran games at conventions, role-playing games, and we got so popular and it had such a following that we ended up having to start having our own conventions, and this group of game masters called Good Omens Games is still having these conventions. So if we ever got to the point where we could get a good Western Mass convention going, I'm sure we could get guidance from those folks and put something together, because this area is got some good cons, but they're kind of lacking in a lot of the miniatures.
Yeah. Well, Games Workshop said, like, more than once on their stream, if you can get over 100 players in one game system, they will come in with the Warhammer community team and do the live streaming event.
All right, that's our goal. Let's go.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, we're having some success getting AOS growing.
Yep.
In this area, and I'm starting to get a Blood Bowl league put together, so we're really drumming up interest.
The closest we've gotten so far is Du Bois, but I think they don't want to touch Du Bois. Again, this is only because Gary didn't want to turn anybody away, because why would you want to turn away happy customers and money? Is that Gary also had 8th edition fantasy and 9th age at his event. And as far as I understand it, Games Workshop won't go to an event where 9th age is also like organized play. So, but I mean, we have Nova, but Nova's a little south for us.
I don't think it's that far, but yeah, it is a little. I think
it's on the very south of the Northeast, is what I mean to say.
Yeah. I was actually planning on going to Nova, and then I looked at my calendar and realized I had a wedding that weekend, which is ironically in Philadelphia. So theoretically, if the timing worked out, I might be able to do both. But probably
Nova's in Washington, D.C. It's not in Philadelphia.
I know.
Okay.
But you're halfway there at
it's
that.
Still another. Yeah, I guess it's another 4 hours.
Yeah, it's.
I mean,
there are so many con events that would be so fun to run, particularly if they still had easy access to Battlefleet Gothic. I would love to run a con event where you played games of Battlefleet Gothic and that impacted what happened at the 40K tables.
that would be cool.
The space battles would maybe give some advantages to certain armies based on how things tied together. And, I would love to do some con where the games tie together, because
they have
the minis games that we play, the GW minis games, are terribly underutilized as it is. People don't want to do anything but fight and have tournaments and win or lose. And, when you start getting into the narratives, the map campaigns and things, it really starts to shine.
Yeah. I could speak to both ends of that, because especially in the New Jersey area, we have a lot of competitive folks. And what they want to do is, because they don't really play video games, it's like this is how they test their skills. So like that, they are not what they get out of it is the challenge and the strategy behind it. And I'm not. Yeah.
So if you don't mind me exploring that a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you typically find in your area that the groups are good about using things like the terrain rules, the mysterious terrain rules and things?
Oh no, they want to get rid of them.
And the random turn order.
Oh yeah, they want to get rid of that too.
Because that's the type of thing that with fantasy, when it was Warhammer Fantasy, people didn't even really want terrain on the board. They wanted just to run straight across the field and do a Pickett's charge into the opposing army. And I just think there's so much that you can do with these games.
Like if you take a look, a good example of those who are aware, like on Twitter, the Realms at War event in England, that the tickets just went on sale for that. Does anyone know that is in the chat? And I'm sorry, in the group right now, or no?
Not yet, no.
Realms at War is like a rather infamous narrative event run by some of the UK guys, including the guys on the Mitzi and Jimbo show. I don't know if you guys have heard of that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's Mitzi, Jimbo, and their friend Steve Foote. And they put together these very complex interwoven campaigns. And I think I even overheard last year that banter or like scheming occurred in like the private like Facebook and WhatsApp groups. Like over, like it plays out like a tournament. Like I'm sorry, you have like 3 games one day, 2 games the next day. But like overnight, like Friday night into the Saturday and Saturday night into the Sunday, there was like scheming, there was bargaining, there was all sorts of like role playing going on, which affected the next day's games. And like
that is something that Paul and Des and I are trying to bring into our area, and it's I think going pretty well, and people are into the narrative. For the games themselves, but they're into the narrative. They get excited when their characters are highlighted in some of the stories.
Yeah.
We always came at it from the competitive play angle, and I think had some success. But as soon as we turned around and did this narrative thing, it's just players came out of the woodwork people have never even seen before. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Kept with it.
The big thing that I realized is, like, if you listen to the conversations that people have about like their war stories, their games from the past, like you can tell like what things out of those stories that they're talking about, like what is drawing them into a game.
Yep.
And clearly for the people in this area, it's like the narrative, the thing that happened, the story. It's not about like I made that, I
made that charge, and then he did this, and then I did that. See,
Yeah,
that's all.
like,
That's all I
not
hear
part of the
about.
story. Yeah, that's not part of the story at all. It's
It's part of their story, though, and that's important to them.
Well, I think it is. I think, we're writing actual fiction based on what happens at the tables, but there's always going to be a component of people telling stories about, and then there was this, I remember when I missed this die roll and I needed it. And so there's the war stories that evolve from any gaming, even in a tournament. But sorry, the dog is pushing on my arm here. But there's also people talking about the stories that we're writing now. And we're choosing scenarios based around the fiction and vice versa.
Yeah. But it's almost like forming a larger scale D&D campaign. You have to find people willing to sign on who are willing to contribute their imagination to what's going to happen in upcoming games.
Yeah.
Rather than people who are looking to just come out with like an army that they plan based on scenario play. You know what I mean?
And every good miniatures game tells a story. So that's always been the appeal for me. When I play Age of Sigmar, actually, especially when I play the game Infinity, I can picture an action movie. The rules for an Infinity have to do with reactionary shooting on your opponent's turn and moving through cover. And I can just see that in my head as an action movie. And so the fiction, as Des can attest, since I've known him, I've always wanted to do this. Always wanted to do a really narrative theme.
Yep.
Yeah. I just wish you could convert those Infinity models, but most of them are one piece, and that doesn't do anything for me.
And no.
That's
like I'd much rather play
favorite minis game.
I wish I like that look more than 40K, but because I can't really kit bash the models like into whatever I want, let alone like I feel like there's an aspect of the hobby that I need to have in that allows me to take the pre-existing miniatures and truly make them my own in a way that no one has really thought to do.
Yeah.
And that's what I think one of the main reasons I keep staying with Games Workshop games is that they just have they allow such creative freedom with the miniatures themselves.
Definitely.
I think that GW is probably the best example of miniatures games as a hobby.
Yeah.
And, I know I've talked to a lot of parents and people who are like, oh my God, it's so expensive for a game. And the way I sort of break it down for them is, you can go and buy golf clubs for $600, or you can buy an Age of Sigmar army for $600.
Yeah.
When you go golfing, you're going to pay about $35 to play, more if you rent a court or a cart. And you're going to put the clubs away after you're done, and that's it. But when you are involved in something like a miniatures game, you have the actual conversion process. You have painting, you have model building itself, you have terrain building, whether you do it from scratch or from kits. You have reading, you have list building itself as an actual hobby. It really is a lot more bang for your buck than most other expensive hobbies.
Yeah. Even when Games Workshop took away the modularity in a lot of their kits. Like a lot of the new Age of Sigmar stuff only has like one way you can build some of these things.
Well, that's when you buy a Dremel.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I only have access to one drum. Like I think my grandfather bought a Dremel. I want to say in the early to mid 90s, and that's in one of our family garages somewhere. I think I should probably invest in a regular Dremel.
There you go. That's a must-have.
Me all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the event that I'm going to be doing in a couple of weeks is kind of riffing off that same sort of narrative idea. And I'm not going to I haven't like written out the the rules pack yet, but the general idea that I'm going for is to do like a Path to Glory campaign, but do it in one day. And in that way kind of have it sort of like a tournament format a little bit, but definitely have like each game kind of connect to each other and have it thematically really be about the story of your champion. Yep. And then they've got a bunch of guys that are following them, that are helping them, but it's really about that champion and what they're doing.
Cool idea I saw for something like that was, again, the Realms at War people. They drew an entire town, like a Game of Thrones style town with like a market district, a docks district, and they overlaid the map of the town onto I think it was about 10 or so tables, and then they put terrain on each table atop that map, and then people didn't move tables randomly. It was like, well, your character is fighting in the market district, and the person behind you is fighting in the district right next to you, and potentially you could have characters cast spells in nearby districts to help you out. So it's like the map really came alive. And if like say one person won their game in a certain part of the city, they could use the bonuses, like, well, if they took control of the warehouses, say they find explosives in one of the warehouses, they might be able to utilize that later in the event or hand them out to somebody.
That's great.
Yeah. So
Gents, I will be back in a moment. I need to take care of my whiny dog.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. What's cool about that venue that we're using, and it's our local game store. The way they set up their tables there, instead of having a bunch of 6x4 tables or 4x4 tables, they have 3 tables that are, I believe they're 4x24, and they use like game mats to kind of like segregate them.
Gotcha.
So realistically, you could set up, like one of those tables like the whole way down and have multiple games going on, but like literally having no barrier between them, and like, oh, like my ally over on that next table needs help.
So it becomes almost like a mega battle.
Yeah, like you very easily could do a mega battle there without like having to do something wonky with putting tables together. You just need to put mats down that look like they go together.
They have a ton of
yeah. Sounds nifty.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Let's do it.
All right, 3.
I'd help, but I live like 5 hours away from you guys.
Sounds like somebody has a priority issue.
I know. I have a hard enough time. Like, the league I play in is 80 minutes away from where I work, because I work in Delaware, and the game store is in Atlantic City. So every Wednesday, so I have to basically go all the way up to where, I'm trying to think where geographically I could talk about. There's a suburb of Philadelphia on the New Jersey side called Cherry Hill. Basically have to drive all the way up to Cherry Hill and then get on the Atlantic City Expressway, drive that all the way down to the game store. It's not. It shouldn't be necessary. Nearest Games Workshop's like an hour away, and that's through Philadelphia. And it takes me about 90 minutes to 2 hours sometimes to get there. Very lucky. There's a comic book store south of Philadelphia called Showcase Comics. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah, that's Michaela. I can't think of his name. I know. Yeah,
Mike Clark.
Mike Clark. Yeah, that his name on Daka is Michaela.
Oh, okay. I didn't know he was on Daka Daka. But yeah, man, Mike Clark's store is there. He used to be like a big Warhammer fantasy player back in the day. He has a ton of trophies from games days for competitive 40K clubs that he's sponsored and stuff like that. And
I've run into him at Games Day a few times. I was drinking with him at Games Day.
oh no.
And,
Yeah, well, he's still around. It was Free Comic Book Day today, so I talked to him about some stuff possibly for Triumph, and then picked up some basing materials that I need to put towards my general. I'm trying to have even more elaborate bases than previously.
mm-hmm.
But Mike Clark is, like, I would say, the closest store to where I live and work, but people only play Kings of War and 40K in there. So we're kind of like, we have a big community. It's just that all of us have, it's a hike for most of us to play on a regular basis. Because Mythicos is like 90 minutes north of where I live. So I could never get there on a weeknight to play.
Yeah, that's rough.
Mm-hmm. We make do. The next event we're holding is, well, the guys in Eastern PA are running something called Burke's Spring Assault. Apparently, it's a larger con they've been running for a while because this is the 9th year. It's called Burke's Spring Assault 9.
I want royalties.
Sorry, say again?
I want royalties on that.
Why? Anyway. Yeah, that's going to be a 1,500 point event. I know 1,500's an odd points level, and some of our guys were turned off by that. But this is, I don't want to say the best they can do, but they're really trying to get their feet wet with the game. Like, a lot of guys went over from 40K to this, so they're trying it with smaller armies because they know not a lot of people have the most stuff.
Right.
So that's going to be on the 19th. And then the week after, I'm running. I've been running events in New York City for a while. It's been a little bit difficult to gain traction, I think, just because it's a hike to get people out to Brooklyn. And a lot of the New York City guys, they're on their feet all day, every day of the workday, because it's New York City. You have to walk everywhere.
Right.
But this year this month, we used to have bi-monthly tournaments, and this is the bi-monthly tournament. We really want to turn everything around and try and fill the store with Age of Sigmar guys. And I'm going to be giving away additional prize support too to those who attend.
Nice.
I have some boxes stashed away. If you're part of that event page, you've probably seen them already. I'm not sure if anyone in here has.
I think I have seen that.
Yeah.
I'm on like all of the event pages I can be.
Gotcha. But this one is for May 26th. I know it's Memorial Day weekend, but this was the best we could do because this store in Brooklyn called the Brooklyn Strategist also has 40K stuff, Magic pre-releases. They do a lot of board game events, D&D stuff. But we're really trying to knock this one out of the park. So if you're interested in fun games of Warhammer for people from all over, like the Northeast, hopefully you can make it to Burke's Spring Assault. I'm sorry. It's called Empire City Brawl. This is the name I gave it. The Brooklyn Strategist. It's just a 3 rounds match play event, but we'll be using some Adepticon rules for like bonus objectives, and I'm going to be giving away free stuff for people who enter.
Free stuff is always good.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The event could be awful, but free hat. There you go.
Yeah. No,
Well,
I actually have the stuff over there. I have 2 novels for Age of Sigmar, Chaos Sorcerer Lord, Stormcast box, Carrick Acolytes box, Start Collecting, Flesh Eater Court / Soulblight, 2 boxes of Graveguard, and a box of Empire Flagellants.
I think, free stuff, it can't be understated as
Mhm.
far as helping new people get off to the right start in the game. But doing things like we said, you're running a 1,500-point game, and it's turned off some of the regulars, and you have to be willing to try new things to get a new group. And
Yeah.
a non-standard 1,500-point game of something, it's unfortunate if some of the more competitive players are turned off by it.
Yeah.
But they're arguably not the target audience. However, hopefully they will see it as a challenge of, oh, well, how can I do this at a non-standard point level?
Yes. That's actually my challenge. Like, I'm not the person running the event in PA, but like I want to use that to try out the Stormcast units, which are underutilized, because I want to keep myself prepared in using them for events where they're more competitive, or I'm sorry, events the more competitive events in general, and just keep myself freshly understanding how they work and how I should use them, because there's no substitute for playing a lot of games with the same units.
Right.
But we were
Absolutely.
talking earlier about the fact that sometimes if you run a tournament monthly, eventually it sort of peters out. And it's because I think you really just need some fresh new ways of playing, and you need fresh people to come into the local scene if you want to keep the game growing.
Yeah. And we've been trickling in people, but that's what I miss most about Games Workshop stores, was that they were better than anyone at getting new people into the miniatures games. I think it was also something to do with the fact that they had dedicated like the demo tables, and like they had people like trained to like help new people who whenever they came in the door to help them with the demo games to like get them hooked. And a lot of times at these independent stores, like it's almost always just friend referrals. Like your friend says, "Hey, let's go try this," or like, "Hey, you want to go try Magic? Magic's really cool. Let's go to a Magic event." With Warhammer, it's very hard. You have to kind of be shown how the game looks and plays before you can really think about putting money into it.
Yep. Yeah. It is. I feel like it's really hard to get new people hooked into Warhammer in general.
Yeah.
Well, there's definitely an art to running demos, because I've actually seen some bad GW store experiences. Even at a games day, I had a bad experience. I wanted to play the Lord of the Rings game for the first time, and the official outrider for the GW staff wouldn't even let me roll my own dice. He was moving the figures, he was rolling the dice, he was telling me everything I needed to know about how to play, but he was so into the game himself, he wouldn't even let me touch the miniatures. And then you also run the risk with a non-GW store, or a GW store that doesn't hire well. You run the risk of somebody absolutely trying to crush the new player, because they have this mentality that, well, the best way to get them to learn is to really beat them, and that's how they're going to understand the game. So there is a whole nother conversation to be had around how to run demos, because the demo is going to be what turns somebody off or gets them hooked.
Yeah.
There was a demo that I was supposed to run for someone, and they got there early, and somebody else ran the demo and just ran the other person over. And never came back.
Never a good idea. I mean, you don't. When I run demo games, I don't necessarily try to win or lose. I try to give them a good experience.
Yep, a good experience.
Sometimes I'll make questionable strategic decisions in the interest of showing them something cool about the game.
Yep.
Because your goal when you're running demos is to get them into the game.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Now that's that I should also say when I'm actually playing in tournaments, I also often make questionable strategic decisions, but that's a whole other story.
That's when I try not to make them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like that time that Paul put his Vanguard wing into my fulminators and bounced.
Yeah, that was a bad plan.
Hey, you were just getting new into the game, right?
It was like my third game with Vanguard Wing, so sure, we'll call it that.
Yeah.
That was at the boys, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was where I think that was the best tournament. Like I performed the best personally at that tournament than any other tournament before that. But I then took that same list, which I took to Du Bois, and then proceeded to do progressively worse at the next two events I went to. Like I went to Du Bois was last November, and I won 4 games. And then I went to Heat 1, which is the grand tournament heats at Warhammer World, and I won 2 games. And then I went to Adepticon, and I won 2 games. So I think I'm done with that Stormcast list right now. Heat 1, let me tell you, for some reason there was a prevailing idea that the British are less competitive than us, and that's simply like the exact opposite. It's when I went to Warhammer World, it was like the Olympics. Heat 1 is, and even the staff was like, not only was the competition very fierce, but like all of these players were playing exceptionally well with incredibly powerful armies, and they were great people. Like there weren't really bad sports people. Like, I'm sorry, bad sportsmen, or I'm sorry, poor sports. And they said that the hobby in the fantasy genre of Warhammer is just far and above what 40K is generally shows at an event. And I think that's always been true. Like fantasy has always been like just had a propensity to have a little bit more effort on average across all of the players that attend.
Yeah.
Like say there were, I want to say between 84 and 90 players at Heat 1. 11 people scored in the top 10% for best painted and got their armies to be shown off and judged. That's a lot. That's like a lot.
Yeah.
At Adepticon, there were, I think close to 20 armies that were up for best army nominations. And that's just when you think about that, like 20 people showed up with nearly award-winning hobby.
Yeah.
And that's not something you see every day. Not to disparage 40K or poke fun in it, but the Games Workshop staff were saying like 40K has some great hobbyists, but there's just more great hobbyists per capita in the Age of Sigmar scene, especially right now.
The Age of Sigmar, because I don't think that was quite as true with fantasy, at least in my experience and seeing.
I think it was very true, at least so we've had different experiences.
Yeah.
I guess it's ultimately anecdotal because you'd really have to get a lot of data to compare them.
Yeah. And let me dial that back a little bit, because with Warhammer Fantasy, with all the ranks and everything, people's painting was done to a very high standard. Then again, if you took away the first rank, the second rank wasn't painted quite as well. But yeah, I think the painting, now that I think about it, the painting standard was really high. You didn't see as many conversions as you do now with Age of Sigmar.
Well, I feel like you could get away with more of them, or most of them were unit fillers.
Yeah,
but I think
right.
the problem that came about there was that you were running entire units where they had to be filled with effectively the same model so they could rank up well.
Yep.
And I think that's ultimately why they went to round bases, is so they could be unrestrained in what they make. They no longer have to rank up.
Yeah,
so they can get wider and like wilder and wider poses.
Yep. I love it. I'm glad they got rid of the trays. I kind of miss the unit filler, but I don't miss like building a bunch of models and thinking they were great, and then you put them on the tray and then they didn't fit together.
Yeah.
Turn them back down again.
Mm-hmm.
And F it, throw them in a drawer and do something different.
Yeah. That's unfortunately it shows in the factions which consist of just Warhammer Fantasy models, like the Eldritch Council, which has the Swordmasters battle line.
Yep.
Even if you get the Island of Blood Swordmasters, which are some of my favorite infantry models, they're all the same.
Yeah.
Because they're meant for Warhammer Fantasy.
Exactly.
And then you get stuff like the Melusai or the Kinerai, and like those Dark Elves are on 40mm bases, and that's like used to be unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because so they can get them wider and larger. Kind of wish they redid Blood Knights. That's why I never did a Death Army. I was saving up to do like a Viking Soulblight army. I wanted to do an army like almost of converted Chaos Warriors. And it wasn't even like Chaos Warriors that converted to vampirism. It was supposed to be like a truly like Viking style culture of vampires with like shield maidens and all of the beards. I was doing dwarf heads on like Chaos Warrior bodies and sculpted fur. But that turned out to they really nerfed vampires. So I'm no longer going to start a Death Army.
Mm-hmm.
But still, they had an opportunity to make all of these new, like the Morghast, for example, bigger, crazier, more aggressive and wild poses. Yeah.
You know, for a long time, I struggled with whether or not Warhammer Fantasy was creative for the painters and for the model builders, and certainly for really good painters, it was art. And I know a particular gentleman that I used to game with all the time out in California who was an amazing painter, and he put effort into every single model and every single rank of his massive armies. And you know, he would get into debates about people whether or not painting miniatures was an art. And I think it does feel much more artistic now.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go back and you look at those older fantasy models, part of creativity is sometimes working with the restraints that you're given. Yep. And so when you do have those rank and file units, especially now, if you want to use them, great, you've got the Isle of Blood. Go back and figure out how to make them look different. You know, at one point I was using I was doing a dwarf army, and I was green stuffing actual fur caps and fur boots on every single dwarven model, and you know, and then doing other things to give them also kind of a unique look to them. So there's an aspect of it. If you're really a creative individual, you look at those plain rank and file models, and you will find a way to make them different.
Yeah.
And that is your challenge.
Especially if you want to keep to the 100% Games Workshop product, because with the new renaissance of Games Workshop comes the return of Games Workshop events, which means that if you want to really compete in those events, you have to go back, you have to put the third-party models away. Because one of the things that was like came about at the tail end of Fantasy was like the and this isn't bad. Like a lot of these, there's gorgeous miniatures ranges out there that were just being utilized as Warhammer Fantasy figures because the fluff wasn't moving forward, and Games Workshop wasn't making entire new ranges like they did for Caradron Overlords and the Ideneth Deepkin. They weren't adding to the lore as they are now.
There was rules for models that just didn't exist too.
That ended with the Chapter House lawsuit.
Yeah, that did end. But at the time, there was lots of models.
Like the Lord on the Abyssal Terror is a good example. Without straying into like 40K, because there's plenty more There's plenty more of it in 40K than there was in Warhammer Fantasy. Bone Giant, stuff like that. And even just for characters.
Yep.
Like I remember looking at back when what's his name? Something McVeigh. He used to be a Games Workshop. Mike McVeigh, back when he had his own Studio McVeigh, and he had like these one-off characters, and one of them was like, I have to own that as an Archmage in my current army, and that time is now at an end.
Yeah.
If you want it, no, if you want to compete in official Games Workshop events, that time is at an end. So for someone like me, yes, it's over. I'm not saying anybody else has to keep doing that. You can go ahead and there was a guy in our local area, whether you like this or not is up to you. He had a Chaos Demon army made entirely of pieces of action figures. He would cut up like, yeah, like the Ghostbusters toys and the Spawn action figures. But if you want to do that and your opponent agrees to it, it's perfectly legal. But you won't get on the Twitch channel that way.
Yeah, I mean, I've played Blood Bowl with a guy who runs an all Lego team, and it's fun, but yeah, you'd not be able to play it in a tournament.
Yeah.
Not an official GW tournament.
Yeah.
But it's he did.
They
it
have
all in the
Blood Bowl
Teenage Mutant Ninja
tournaments
Turtle
at
theme.
their
It was
pub
great.
in Warhammer World. I think that's still wild.
It's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Pretty good
Oh,
book.
and the guy running the tournament is a guy by the name of Darren Latham.
I know that name.
You know who that is?
Sculptor, right? Is he a sculptor?
He's the head Golden Demon judge and head heavy metal painter, and
Yep.
he's been there for like 30 years. But he's big in the Blood Bowl. I unfortunately, when I was over there this year, I did not get to talk to him really. It was a shame. Like he was one of the people I really wanted to talk to. I had such a great time though. I don't want to talk like yeah. But I got to talk to Chris Peach, Ben Johnson, the whole Warhammer community team, some of the sculptors, some of the writers, some of the heavy metal painters, basically everybody except for Darren. And he was like inseparable from a game of Blood Bowl whenever I was over there. Like whenever I found him, he's just playing Blood Bowl like in a cave. They had these little alcoves where you could eat and play privately, and it was like always there. He doesn't even paint anymore. He just plays Blood Bowl. I swear. But he was running the Blood Bowl tournament in Bugman's the same day we were playing in Heat 1. So there were two events going on at the same time, which was hard to believe.
That's pretty good. I mean, you don't need a lot of table space to play Blood Bowl either, but that's pretty cool.
You do if a lot of people sign up.
Yeah. We had a...
Yeah, I may be looking at that problem next week.
It's a good problem to have, though.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got a lot of interest in Blood Bowl next week, so that's great. I just don't have a lot of boards.
Yeah,
gotcha.
So
when in
Des,
doubt,
might be
make terrain
borrowing
like
your
crazy.
board, Des, if that's okay with you.
I've got 2 or 3 of them, but I think they're all over Chris's house.
Okay. Well, they're going to come back smelling like beer, just like my Small World board game. That I still don't have back.
Uh-oh. I keep forgetting to bring that. I forgot
Hey guys,
on it.
hey guys, I'm gonna sign off right now. I'm heading. Yeah.
all right.
I'm heading to bed. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks for hanging out. It's good to meet
chat.
you.
Yep. Yeah. Have a good night.
Good night.
Night.
Bank of America.
What?
So you're still painting Nurgle?
Yeah, still working on Nurgle. I have a lot of Blight Kings to go.
Is that what you're painting right now, Blight Kings?
I mean, at the moment, I'm just screwing around on my phone and not painting. But I've been working on Blight Kings. They're coming along.
All
I've got one squad of 5 totally done and 2 more that are pretty close. One is still primed and one's still in a sealed box. But
yeah, I'm trying to get. Of course, I'm building something new now. It's like an idiot. I should be painting. Oh, well.
Yeah, I mean, I think my goal for this summer is to get through my Nurgle and then really go at my Stormcast. And really, like, I basically just painted a Vanguard wing, and that was about it with my Stormcast. So, I don't know. I'm really, like, I want to make Stormcast work and work kind of like the way I want them to. So, I've been actually just kind of like sketching a lot of lists, just kind of going through like the different units and what things do, and doing some math out on things and finding out the Paladors are like way better than I thought they were.
They are,
yeah.
The Paladors are. I think I can't think of the name of them. Anyway, yeah, they're. I feel like their special movement ability. They're the winds of whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like that ability too much, because it sort of makes a target out of them, makes them sit. They can't do anything. Just like I like the Lord Aquilor's ability, but again, you're missing a whole round of whatever he popped off the table. They're gone until your next hero phase.
Yeah, I feel like there's situations where you wouldn't mind that happening, though.
Yeah, I feel like if they're doing that with the long strikes, that's a round to like no long strikes doing what they need to do, because it's in the hero phase.
Yeah. I've also been toying around with the idea of using the Vanguard Hunters too.
I don't know. I think the Paladors, the Hunters are very, very probably not going to hit all that hard, but their movement and how tanky they could be is just going to surprise people.
Yeah, the thing that I really like about them is that if you read that War Scroll carefully, you can bring them on the table whenever you want to. Like, it's your choice what turn they come on.
Exactly. There's no rule. Yep.
Yeah, there's no roll, and there's a lot of those abilities where, like, you start off the board. It's like they have to come on in your first movement phase.
Yep.
Like, that's the downside of running the Nurgle dude.
Oh yeah. Gut Rot Spume. Yep.
Yeah, that's the downside of Gut Rot Spume, right? Like, you don't have control of when stuff comes down. It comes down in your first movement phase. It's still a really good ability because you're deep striking like 10 Blight Kings into your opponent.
But it is really hard to plan an entire list when you've got 1 or 2 units or even a character that is unpredictable in terms of what or when it's going to be on the table.
Yes. Yeah, that's why
in fact, there's entire armies that I've avoided sometimes because I'm like, no, I just don't want that type of I don't, my personal gaming style is I don't want unreliable units.
Yes. And that's the thing I really dislike about the Stormcast battle trait. Like, you have to roll. Like, that seems like the opposite of what you want to do with Stormcast.
Yeah, plus, but still 1 of the 2 there. Still a pretty good chance to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how many you take, though.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great if there was like an artifact that let you re-roll that.
Yeah, and there isn't. It's weird. Strange.
Yeah, or a command trait.
Yep.
Command trait would be command trait. That would be perfect for a command trait. Yeah, I don't know. Just kind of annoys me. Like, I am totally with you that, like, I just don't like things that are like purely random. Like, I want some level of control of what's going on. Like, yes, it's a dice game.
Yeah.
But
you want to have some kind of a strategy with your army going into a game, and you're kind of already reactive when you have a unit that's like that.
Yeah. Yep. And that's one of the things that I've been really enjoying with Nurgle is that that you do have a lot of control.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's like really necessary with Nurgle to have, either somebody with Tome of 1,000 Poxes to get, your +1 to cast, or to have the Great Unclean one with the Bile Blade to get +1 to cast, so that you can be, I always forget the name of the stupid spell, but the spell to change the wheel.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Like, to get that going off on a 6, like, it is huge. Because that can make or break your turn sometimes.
Yep. No, the wheel is pretty good.
Yeah.
Good.
It is really good when you can put it on what you want to put it on. It is not that useful when it does not go, like, if you don't have any control over it.
I just play random.
Yeah, that's what I was finding, playing Path to Glory with them. Like, I didn't have a wizard in my list, and I didn't give the command trait to my general that, like, let him, like, move it up or back 1.
Right.
So I had 0 control over the wheel. And it was just like, most of the time the wheel just did not do anything for me at all. But, when you're playing with, like, a 2,000-point game, and you're playing, with a list that's tailored to do, like, make things do what you want them to do, then it's great. Like, you move the wheel to the thing you need all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely mitigate certain things at larger point values.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The big thing is just having a wizard that has +1 to cast, so that you can get that spell off on a 6. And I've even been thinking of going with Tome of 1,000 Poxes on my Great Unclean one, and have the Bile Blades on +2 to cast, so it goes off on a 5.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah. The other interesting thing about that too is that I don't know about the tome, but the Bile Blade also makes you +1 to unbind.
Yeah, I did. I read that again recently. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
That has come in handy a surprising number of times.
I did do it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I've been slowly, I think, working out the quote-unquote right way to play Nurgle. Yeah, and I think it's all around control the wheel and control movement. Like using Gut Rot Spume to deep strike guys, using the wheel +2 movement when you need to, using the Great Unclean one with a bell. Like, all of those things combined, just like it gives you so much freedom and versatility, and it makes up for all of the things that Nurgle is typically bad at.
Imaging.
Yep.
Now, when you get to the point where you have an army that you feel like you know the right way to play it,
yes,
does that army then become boring? Because I find that there's a lot of armies, or even, geez, I can remember in MMOs, like on EverQuest, when I played a druid, it was like, oh, you could only play a druid one way, or you're never going to get a group. Well, then all of a sudden I lose interest if it's only going to be able to do it one way. So if you get that quote unquote right way, do you then get bored with that army?
Nope. I then, as you can attest, and as Paul can attest, I find the right way. I mess around with it a little bit, and then I'm like, all right, I'm gonna bust this wide open, and I'm gonna use stuff that nobody is going to expect and make it work. that's when my imagination really like kicks off doing crazy shit.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Yep.
So you find that comfort zone, and then you go, well, now, all right, I'm going to push, do it a different way.
Now, the only thing is, if there is, sometimes I'll find there is no different way, right? And that then I run into a point where like I can't do anything with this. Like, I think there's a lot of stuff to unlock with the KO that I feel like people just haven't touched on it yet. You know, I think people just see the clown car and say, okay, that's how we play it. I don't know. I have a lot of ideas swimming around in my subconscious that I think there's going to be different ways to unlock it, and I just need to finish painting it so I can start trying it out. I
mean, if you just like think about it, like running minimum battle line with that army, right?
Yep.
And then basically the rest of your army is like engine riggers and sky wardens. Like, that sounds like a list.
Why do you think I'm building sky wardens right now?
Yeah, like, and engine riggers don't need to hook onto a boat at all. Like, there's no reason to do that. But like, everybody just plays the clown car and drops in the engine riggers with the clown car for whatever reason. Like, you could, like, just to get their drop count down, probably. But like, I mean, how many times have I played against you and you didn't use the clown car and your engine riggers were still into me top of one?
Yep. Like every time. Yeah, I have some. I think I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction. I still think it's funny, like how well they work as a foot list. I want those boats to work. I want the boats to work. I want more than one ship. I'm still working on it. I think there's some ways to do it. I just need to trick it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and see, that's to me where I get excited about an army is when there is not one way to play it. That's always been the appeal for the undead, both in when it was Warhammer Fantasy and now. There's a lot of ways. There's no one way. There's so many units available. There's so many things you can do.
You know what armies like that I go back to all the time?
What's that?
Skaven.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my favorite army. I'll always come back to Skaven and figure out something else crazy to do.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm looking at my since I'm now at the point where I'm built up on all of my Nagash, I'm going back and I'm building my flesh eater courts. And I'm looking at the models that I have, and I have the option of the crypt horrors, which are mathematically better in almost every way. And a big part of me wants to just build them that way. But then the crypt flayers are not as good, but they fly.
Can I tell you something about the crypt flayers? Is their shooting attack is actually really good.
That's the other component of it. I mean, I know the crypt horrors are better. They're going to cause more wounds. But I've also got terror geists and things in there. And, if I hit you with a flesh eater flying army with shooting, that's going to confuse the heck out of a lot of opponents.
I was working on something like that. I was doing a lot of list theory around doing an all flying crypt geist or whatever they're called, the
crypt flyers, the
crypt flayers, yeah. Crypt
flayers, yeah, and it's really hard. It's a hard choice.
Yep. I think they're be creepy.
But that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about with the Death Army, and then, well, okay, great, I've got that all figured out, and I've played them, and I've played Nagash, and now I'm going to combine the two, and then people are going to be like, okay, I really don't know how to go against an undead army where there's both flesh eater courts and the Nagash figures, and so there's never going to be a time when I will get bored with death. Well, unless I'm actually dead, then that does sound a little boring.
Yeah. That's how I was feeling for a long time about Free People, and then General's Handbook 2017 happened, and I got really sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see the appeal. There's a lot of variety there.
Well, yeah, I mean, pre-GHB 2017, it was all of the Empire and all of Bretonia. Like,
Right.
that is a lot of stuff to work with. And the different synergies that you could get were outrageous. And there were some things there that were just like little hidden gems in there that were just stupid good. Like the Bretonian Lord on a Pegasus. Like,
right.
How many times did that?
Oh.
How many times did that asshole like charge like a unit of 20 dudes and run them all off the board in one turn?
Yep, or just punch half of them in the face and then sit on an objective that I was trying to get. Fun.
Yeah, and like I still haven't found another model that does that.
No, he was pretty good.
Like he just like hit above his weight class in every way.
Wasn't he like 100 points too?
140.
It's crazy.
Yeah, he was just like way too good for his points. And I feel like I was like the only person on Earth that understood that.
Yep.
Well, that's another issue. You get people that just go on the internet and they
net list, yep.
Pick a list that they found, and that's what they're running, and they don't experiment. And I don't get it. I'd be really bored with the game that way, personally.
Yeah. Well, I think the way some of the books, I mean, I don't know so much about the, like definitely the Nagash book has a lot more options, but like there were certain books that despite all of the options that were present were very much on rails on like how you put a list together, what things were good, what things worked. Like I feel like the Corn book is like that. Like there's not a lot of real options in the Corn book.
I definitely can see that. There's things that are a lot more viable and a lot more difficult decisions to be made when you are playing the Nagash list.
Yeah.
Like the Gore Pilgrims. Yeah, I'm definitely doing that, but that's one of the only things that is just, completely solid. With Nagash, you can be all, well, I shouldn't say Nagash, with undead, really. You can be all over the place. I'm going to someday be bringing my Morn Goal in and all kinds of things.
Those are terrifying.
Yeah,
well,
buddy.
Not as terrifying as they used to be, thankfully.
Yeah.
What's really terrifying is when I dropped mine today and I thought I broke it. It's the only Forge-World model I have ever purchased. Yeah. And then I realized, oh, thank God I didn't break him. He actually just kind of came apart at one of the actual seams. I just need to pin him.
Yeah.
That was my scariest near-death experience.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm curious what happened. I don't think, looked at the Bretonian Lord since they changed the War Scrolls. And yeah, he can still go on a Pegasus. I thought, for some reason, that was one of the things that they changed, that they took his Pegasus option away.
So there was something I was thinking about for local events. How much would it matter if we said, this campaign's going to be 1,000 points list. It's going to run for a month, and you can use the old General's Handbook too.
That could be interesting.
Like, if you want to take Skarsnik and Gobla, if you want to take Thorgrim, if you want to take the Lord on Pegasus, cool.
Well, I mean, I feel like nobody's saying you can't play Compendium.
Yeah. But I think we need to put that out front in front of people. This is something I was thinking about the other day. That maybe we should say like build 1,000 points lists, and you guys say like Mason with the high elves or Tyler with the beastmen. Like, I can't play this stuff. It's not in the general's handbook. Nah, bring it.
Yeah,
Have fun. Bring it. Let's go.
Well, and that's exactly what this Warhammer Legends thing with the Dark Elves right now. I mean, that's a perfect example of an army that's built for that type of gaming.
Yep.
I mean, they're encouraging.
I just read that today, and I was like, I was just thinking about this.
Speaking of events, there's an event that I've been thinking of that I think I would like to run at some point, and of course, rope you guys in to help with, which is I want to do an event that is specifically relies on alliances. And I'm talking, okay, you must play an order army or a destruction army, and it must have components from more than one race, or because not everyone can afford to have more than one race. You could only take the generic command traits and things for that order. And I think things like the free people and stuff would become a lot more exciting and viable if everyone had the same level playing field, that you're not bringing in all the specialist rules for that, for Nagash or for, the Khadoran overlords. It's order, chaos, death. And at that high level,
what I've actually been thinking about is running a mixed order list that is basically free people. But I think what happened with free people is that everybody really wants to go to their battle trait, the great companies.
Right.
And everybody's like, okay, well, I need to run great companies. That means that I need to run like maxed out great companies to make sure that they're as effective as they can possibly be.
Now I have no points left.
And now I have no points left. Oh, by the way, most of my army cannot move ever. And most of my army is too big to fit anywhere. So, like, how do you solve that problem?
Right. Well,
like,
and I think that's
I think you just say fuck it and throw it away.
Yep. The mixed order is the word I was looking for. A mixed order type of a tournament or event, so that you can have that type of situation resolved. And maybe it's a really high point value.
Yeah.
Mega battle.
Like, honestly, like, I just want to be able to take, basically a free people list. Like, I seriously question whether or not the great companies are actually good enough to build your list around them.
Yeah.
And like, they're an outrageously strong ability when they do what you want them to do.
What, you're losing one of the most important things, the board.
Yes.
And shooting. Yep. And that's something I worry about with the KO all the time. I don't want to sit back and shoot. I need to be active and moving, because I've seen that as a weakness when I played games.
Yeah. And the other option, too, is to play them differently, is to just play them differently. Like, you run a great company, but don't run it as like this static gun line force. Like,
don't be afraid to get in position and actually utilize it later and use it as min units too.
Yeah, or use unusual things.
Well, I guess that's why I'm trying to do like this, the mixed order kind of a thing. So you are using unusual things. You're not running the army as you always have, just doing something different.
Yeah. I think the big problem that free people really has is that it's a very, very slow army, and there's nothing you can do about it. And even the stuff that's not slow like the the Demigriffs, the Outriders, the Pistoliers, like they the Outriders and Pistoliers, they move quickly into position and then they sit and shoot. And then the Demigriffs, they want to charge, and that's it. And the Griffins are really good, but like the most successful lists I've seen from free people are like running 3 Griffins.
Wow.
And I'm like, this seems wrong. Like, this doesn't seem like the correct way to play this at all. So I'm thinking going back to running it just as mixed order, say, screw this whole thing with great companies. Like, we don't need that. The artifacts and command traits for free guild are really no better than the ones for order after that. So if I'm giving up great companies, I might as well just go mixed order and be able to dip into any faction. Okay, now I can bring back my Bretonnian Lord out of Pegasus because now I'm mixed order, so I can just grab compendium stuff. I don't need to worry about allies. I can run as much stuff out of the Ironwell Arsenal as I want to. I can run as much stuff out of Collegiate Arcane as I want to. I can throw in Stormcast as needed.
You can run the new stuff. You can throw in, I don't know, Deepkin, the Snake Ladies. I can't think of their name right now. The Naga, whatever they are.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking maybe running. You have the old list that I was running that was like Empire Knights and Demigriffs.
Yep.
I was thinking of changing that up and running Demigriffs and Paladors. Same, like the same general concept.
Yep.
And the Palador is getting +1 to hit off a Hurricanum, does mortal wounds off of the Talons on 5s instead of on 6s.
How many attacks? They have a pretty good amount of attacks each, too, don't they? I don't remember.
Yeah, they're the Paladors. Their Griff Chargers are 3 attacks each on 3s and 3s with Rend 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I forgot they were that good. I remember looking at their stat line and thinking, that's all right.
Yeah, like when I looked at their stat line, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what? Why have I not been looking at these? Like, the Chargers are ridiculous.
Well, I think that's the benefit of playing, ultimately the benefit of playing multiple armies. You go back and you have experience now with Nurgle or whatever, and you start to realize, oh, now that I know other components of the game a bit better, that's not how I would play that.
Yeah. And what's interesting is, like, I like the Lord Aquilor, but I don't like using him as your general.
No.
I like using him in the same role as the Lord on a Pegasus. Like, highly mobile, just like hero hammer unit that like gets into your opponent's back lines and messes stuff up, and it does an inordinate amount of damage for the amount of points that you're dumping into it, because he gets a trait on his Griff Charger too for free.
Yeah, I think that's why I don't really like him as the general either. I mean, I don't like his command ability very much.
Well, I think we should take some mixed order games and throw them on a table and see what happens. And if we decide to do an event, it could even be a partners event. It must be mixed order. It must be, more than one faction. It's hard to say it has to be more than one faction if each person's playing individually, because not everybody's got multiple factions.
Yeah.
But for longtime players, we could certainly do something like that, or we could let people borrow minis or whatever. Partners, on the other hand, are likely to have mixed armies that they could partner up with.
Yep.
So I think that could actually be really a fun tournament or event. Is that it's got to be a mixed order, a mixed army.
Right.
Because if you run a mixed army now, for most of the armies, you're not going to have a competitive list.
Yeah.
But
and the only ones that really work well are like the order best of order list, you know?
Yeah. So if everybody has to run mixed alliances, you've got a level playing field. And now you can get to see what all kinds of crazy combinations you can put together. I just think it would be a lot of fun. I think, it's another fresh, new, exciting way to play Age of Sigmar and get people going, or keep people going.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially if things start to get stale, throw something like that in there.
Yeah. I definitely can't wait to start like actually really writing the tournament pack for Book of Grudges. I've got a lot of fun ideas.
Good.
Yeah. The idea that I thought of, that I heard of from another narrative event, that I think is going to apply really well to a Path to Glory event, is to have a list of like achievements.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And like you can do like each achievement is like once per event. So they're all going to be fairly like substantial things. They all have to do with your champion in some way, or your opponent's champion in some way. And you just get like +1 glory for each one you can check off.
That type of thing is so fun. And it actually is great in a map campaign to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because you take this space, well, you get this extra little benefit, next game or whatever.
Yeah. And that's the idea that I really want to go for, is to have that event just be about like the story of your general. Like how much crazy awesome stuff can they do?
Right.
And build out that achievement list in such a way that there probably isn't any hero in the game that can do all of them.
Yep, that's the key, because you don't want anybody to go in there and feel like they're gimped.
Right. And you don't want somebody to feel like they're gimped, and you want to give that bonus to somebody that took something unusual that seems like it might be underpowered as their champion, but is actually really good. Or not is actually really good, but like they made it an unusual choice, and therefore there's going to be an achievement in there that rewards that unusual choice.
Well, and once we see that happen, given that we've got some players that are brand new, that gives those new players a chance of going from really liking and enjoying Age of Sigmar to loving it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're never going to forget that general and the amazing thing it did. And that's the level of hooked that I think we're going for here. So that should be fun.
It also creates a situation like in a Path to Glory event where like you could do pretty well in the overall Path to Glory without actually having to win games.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can't always be about winning and losing. It's a huge component, yes, of course. But if it's always about winning or losing, then it's again going to get stale, and also potentially turn off players that may not be great at strategy or may not have chosen the best army or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
There's got to be something exciting not just winning and losing.
Yeah. And just making you do things that are interesting or weird, or things that reward you for doing stuff that is like offbeat, you know? I'm like, one of the achievements that like I was thinking of that seemed like it could be interesting is like your champion ends the game with 1 wound remaining.
Yep.
Like getting out by the skin of their teeth.
I love that one. Because now you're playing the game and intentionally putting your champion in harm's way.
Another one I was thinking of is like having your champion like never get into combat for the whole game.
Scary.
Like a lead from the back,
yes,
kind of thing, you know, like, because some people are going to be playing a general that's more oriented around being a buff piece as opposed to a combat piece. So you want to be able to reward the people that are going in for like the champion that's there for buffs and not just
so this guy not being able to get into battle, that won't make him happy, but it would be fun for me.
Yeah. I'm thinking of doing something like for like spell casting or for prayers. I think it's going to be fairly unusual for someone that can do prayers or a spellcaster to actually be somebody's champion. So I want to reward the people that actually make that choice, because typically like those are going to be really crappy heroes otherwise.
Yeah.
Right.
Another really thematic one that I was thinking.
Ideas.
What was that?
I think you've got some really great fun ideas.
Yeah. Another one that I was thinking is like a make way sort of achievement where like you have like, I have to figure out how to actually word it so it makes clear sense to the people playing. But like at the start of the turn, you have a unit that's engaged in combat with one of your opponent's units.
I'm not sure about that.
Somehow you just triggered Alexa.
Okay. So you have a unit in combat with your opponent. In your movement phase, you retreat all of your units out of combat with a particular enemy unit, and then your general makes a charge into that enemy unit. Like he screams, like, everybody get out of my way, I got this.
Well, you could also set up the classic showdown where 2 generals decide that they're going to meet in the middle of the table and everybody else goes, get out of the way. Let's see what happens.
I love that mission. Remember we had that mission for the global campaign?
Oh, you and I, that was a great time too.
Yep. That could actually be a good one to throw in too, is like if your general is within like 12 inches of your opponent's general, they can like declare a challenge, and they like meet in the middle and they fight it out until one of them dies.
It'd be like the cinematic moment achievement or something.
Yep.
Yeah, but like the only time that you can do it is, I don't know, maybe have that be part of one of the missions or something like that. Like have it really like be like you can only do this like once. Like not just like any game you can just issue a challenge. Like it has to be like a specific one-off kind of thing.
Yes. it could even be fun to have that happen in a certain turn. You know, in turn 4, this must happen. So now you're maneuvering your entire army in a way that preps for that particular turn. And then in that turn, the entire game changes.
Yeah. Can we just talk about, speaking of like doing things on particular turns, how much I don't like the Idoneth Deepkin's tide abilities? Like from a player perspective, like I would never want to play with that army. And I'll play against that army all day long because I know exactly what to expect. I know what you're going to try and do in each turn.
That's precisely what my thoughts have been on it. Like, oh, that chart's pretty good, but I know what your game plan is if I know that chart. Yep.
That's true. I mean, it's fluff wise, it's absolutely amazing, but I can see that being a real detriment.
There was somebody on the forums for the Quadrant Overlords. I was saying, how am I going to win? I have to shoot the nearest thing. Yeah, that works exactly in your favor. You shoot the nearest thing, your Quadrant Overlords, you murder it, and then you move into the stuff behind it. Because the thing they put out in front is going to have a ton of points dumped into it. They're going to rely on it not dying. And what are KO good at? Making things that aren't supposed to die dead.
Well, I think...
And you have multiple units, and you shoot off the closest thing, and then you shoot off the next closest thing, and then you shoot off the next closest thing. Like, it's not that complicated.
Nope.
I think that's one of the things where when you're looking at an army, if you're a new player, everyone always says, well, just buy the army you like the look of. And there's a lot to be said for that.
Yep.
But there are certain armies that are more difficult to play. And that Idoneth army, if you're a veteran player, you might love the challenge of how to try to survive, not, you know, in the turns where things aren't advantageous.
Yeah.
So
well,
that might not be a good army for beginners. I don't know. I haven't read the book. I got it for my wife, but I haven't looked at it.
I think there's also a couple of things that modify like what stage of the tide you're in.
There's not much. There's really not much to do that. There's a little. Yeah.
There's like a couple of things that do it like once per game.
Yeah, like some of the battalions can change it. And there's a hero you can take that makes it run in reverse, if I recall off the top of my head. But yeah, there's not a ton of ways to really, you know, change the order of that.
Yeah.
I figured there would be, so I'm surprised.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense that there wouldn't be because it seems like the linear nature of that is the downside of that army.
Yeah, but if you're a veteran player, you may absolutely look at that and think, "Oh, that is so amazingly challenging. I must do it."
Right.
Just one moment.
Yeah, the other interesting thing, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, they started popping up in some of the rules it's in the Deepkin book. And I think it was in the Daughters of Cain book too. That there are abilities that rather than giving something +1 to save, it treats them as if they're in cover.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So what it does is it doesn't let you stack. Like it doesn't
stack cover and then get a +1 on top of that. And you don't have 1+ fulminators anymore.
Right. And from the Nurgle perspective, the Blight Cis Battalion makes all of your Blight Kings ignore cover.
Yup.
So it's like throwing Rend 2 at everything when your opponent's getting a cover bonus instead of a +1 to hit, +1 to save bonus.
Yep, very mean. I like.
Yeah. And I'm definitely going cold on the Blight Cis though.
Yeah.
I'm not that big of a fan of it.
You're growing cold on what?
The Blight Cis Battalion.
Oh, okay.
The one that just gives all the Blight Kings Rend 1.
Right.
I realized it's outrageously expensive. It's 220 points for the battalion, and then you also have to take a Lord of Blights who's 140 points and sucks.
Yeah, he's terrible.
Yeah, he's really.
Yeah, it's not like he's chewed up my corn units 1,000 times or anything.
Well, the Lord of Blights in particular, though, like he usually just runs into stuff and dies.
Which one is he? Is he on the wasp?
No, he's the guy with the shield and the gallows coming off his back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, actually, yeah. Now that I think about it, when you and I have played, I've never actually fought against him.
Yeah, because he's terrible.
Yeah. You kept him away from corn.
Yeah, I mean, in that battalion, he's the thing that's giving the Blight Kings a shooting attack.
Right.
That 14-inch shooting attack. And he has his own shooting attack that has like Rend 3, I think. But it's like one shot at Rend 3. It's like 4s and 3s. So once in a while it gets through and does some damage.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible.
Yeah, he's just like a 40-point piece of garbage that I don't know.
Well, I mean, piece of garbage is important in a Nurgle army. You got to have stinky dudes.
I've actually been finding too that I really undervalued the Lord of Plagues until I used him in Path to Glory.
Yeah, he's pretty good in Path to Glory.
Yeah, well, I'm just realizing that like he emits like he has a 7-inch bubble around him where your Blight Kings reroll their ones to hit, and he's a pretty solid hero on his own. I'm like, he might actually be worth running in a normal game. Like that seems like actually running him instead of the Lord of Afflictions and giving him the Rust Fang. It frees up like 80 points. You're still getting the Rust Fang in there. Your Blight Kings are all better. Or not all better, but all of the ones near him are better. And you still have the Rust Fang likely getting into things.
And you just might have to be choosy about where he goes, depending on the army you're facing.
Yeah. That's the challenging bit, but I don't know. It's interesting. He's definitely better than I thought he was, and man, he is really powerful when he gets into combat. Like especially with the Rust Fang, it effectively makes him Rend 2, and he's just like a Blight King that does D3 damage, and at Rend 2.
That's actually, that's significant right there.
Yeah, like he's a decent combat hero.
Yep. He's gonna take out a lot of heroes. You know, maybe not guys that are hugely heavily armored or anything, but he could be going around killing a lot of casters.
Yeah, well, I mean, the problem is he's a Nurgle dude, so he's slow as balls. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of casting, and you're talking about that achievement for the person that casts spells.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of fun at some point, too, to do an achievement that's the opposing view of that, which is like the Shutdown King. The Denial guy.
Like unbinding spells.
Yep.
What's that?
Just unbinding spells.
Yeah. Give somebody the award for being just like, the Magic the Gathering equivalent of a counterspell.
They would call that the Pope of Nope, I think.
The Pope of Nope. I love it.
Yep.
Oh, man. It reminds me of my Magic days. I played so much blue for so long.
Yeah, that was a fun color.
Yeah. But you know what? When I towards the end of my Magic career, and now like if I were to ever pick up Magic again,
no,
I don't want to play that. like I have discovered that like the mid-rangey like toolbox kind of decks are way more fun for me.
It was like Goblin Sly was fun. I always loved like hitting hard, hitting first, and then just either winning or dying immediately. I thought that was fun.
That sounds like something you would enjoy.
Yeah.
It does.
That does not shock me in the least.
And I always liked like my other favorite card was McGrim. I love making people discard their cards and take damage. Oh, I've got 4 McGrims out. Why don't you discard a card?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a deck where you took damage. It was black and I think maybe blue, and you took damage if you drew cards. You took damage if you discarded cards. You took damage if you had too many cards in your hand, and you took damage if you had not enough cards in your hand.
Yep.
It was so much fun to play because it just slowly ground you down, and I just had to put enough creatures to stay alive.
Yeah.
Because that game is a race. And so your strategy in that race is kill fast or make the game slow down.
I need to actually I kept a whole bunch of Magic cards. I really just sold off like my stuff that was worth any money. So I really still have my whole Magic collection for the most part. And I actually really want to, like, when I actually find time to do it, is play Commander. Because I feel like that's about the speed that I want to play Magic now.
Commander is really fun. I will admit that, even though I'm pretty sour on Magic, just Commander is fun.
Yeah. And the only custom built Commander deck that I have at the moment is basically it's like black, white, green Reanimator deck. So the whole thing is all about just getting stuff out of your graveyard and into play.
Yeah.
And
I don't think I would ever
your graveyard to begin with.
Like I don't. I've just had too many bad experiences with Magic taking over. I've been in role-playing groups where all the role-playing stopped because of Magic and situations like that. So I've soured on it for that reason. I don't think it's a bad game at all.
Yeah.
But a Commander deck is just something that I would not ever take the time to build, because I wouldn't get that serious about the game, and because there's some really fun ones that you can just buy.
Yes. And they're not, and if you're playing like a 4-player Commander game, they're not bad at all.
Right. I'm looking at everything I do right now. I'm looking at it as not just financially, but can I afford this from a time perspective? Like, I was looking at a really big Lego kit the other day. My we went to Legoland for my son's birthday, and it also happened to be Star Wars themed yesterday for May the 4th.
Yes.
And they had all kinds of special Star Wars stuff. I was looking at a huge Lego kit, and I thought, well, man, I really, really want that.
May the 4th.
And even financially, I could kind of justify it. But when I started thinking, that's time I could be spent drawing, playing guitar, or working on miniatures games, then all of a sudden I didn't have any desire to do it. And that's the same with Commander. I'd be like, no, I am not going to build a deck because it's taking away from things that I value more.
Yeah. And the thing that I've heard from people about Commander is once you get into Commander, it just starts spiraling. And you're like, oh, I have a really great idea for a deck built around this Commander, and then this one, and then this one, and then this one. And then eventually you end up with 20 Commander decks.
Nope. Hope and nope.
Yeah. I can't do it. I just cannot play Magic again. The other thing was the amount of time it took to organize and do various things with the cards and then build decks. It was just too much time. And it was time
you're holding up,
not
Des?
enjoyable to me.
Does this look like Volton from Flash Gordon's Mace?
Yes, I think that looks great.
Just cut up a bunch of crap to make it.
It's a great representation for that.
Very exciting.
But that being said about time spent on certain things, sometimes there are games that I would get into if the miniatures are pre-painted. My wife and I were looking at the Street Fighter Kickstarter.
Is that pre-painted?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I would never consider it, and she's just getting started with miniature building, so she would never consider it if it was more stuff to paint.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, hey, that's a game we can just drag out and play, and there's some appeal to that.
Yeah, that's kind of like the appeal for like X-Wing and stuff like that too.
Yes.
The painting involved.
Right.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't like that.
Apparently, there is also a Star Trek game that is almost exactly the same rules as X-Wing.
Yes.
Yep.
That I've heard is good.
I have heard good things about it, yes.
Yeah. Personally, I would actually be more inclined to play a Star Trek game than a Star Wars game.
I'm
I feel like
Star Wars'd out, so I agree with you.
Yeah.
I don't like the Fantasy Flight, what they've done with it. I don't like X-Wing. Armada's okay. I just think it lacks the character that games like Malifaux or Age of Sigma or 40K even have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm about to sell my X-Wing army. The only thing I'll have left is Imperial Assault because I want to play with my son.
Yep. That, I have to take it back. That is the one thing they really, in my opinion, did right. But then they just copied Descent. But anyway, I love Imperial Assault.
Yeah. But the Star Trek game I've always been a little bit curious about. The thing is, I would love to find people to play Starfleet battles with. Whole different animal, really intense strategy, but oh my God, it's amazing.
Yeah. I am a very big Star Trek fan.
Oh, okay.
I've just been very disappointed in Star Trek for a very long time now. So I have waned on it a little bit.
Believe it or not, I'm just getting interested in it. I'm just getting going.
Yeah. I need to watch Discovery. I'm so off on disappointed in Star Trek that I have not even watched the pilot of Discovery or a trailer for it.
We binge.
I was just another prequel TV show. No,
it really felt like an actual naval military kind of a show. And I'm just getting interested in Star Trek. Of course, I watched the 60s shows, but I just started watching Next Generation. My wife and I watched Discovery. And now I want to play Starfleet battles more than ever. The thing is, like I said, it's not a miniatures game. It's a really intense strategy game. But, it is fantastic.
That's one of Russ's favorites.
What's that?
Well, Russ loves that game.
Yeah, it's a great game. And it's the kind of thing where I've got this massive piece of plexiglass that it's the type of a game where you may not finish it. So you throw the plexiglass over it and get to it next time you play.
Yeah.
But I'll have to ping Ross because I am dying to play that game.
That would be something I'd be interested in trying out.
Yeah, you should check it out because the I think it's called the Cadet Training Manual is free. Mm-hmm. And there's even some solo scenarios to get you involved in that, but it's a hex-based game, and I have found some beautiful tokens that you can print of the various ships, and I would not even be interested in the Star Trek series that much if I hadn't played Starfleet Battles and a game called VGA Planets and gotten really curious about the Romulans.
Yep. I feel like everybody's got a Star Trek race that hooks them in some way.
I believe that. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
Tribbles are the best.
definitely the tribbles. I heard they are some trouble though.
Indeed.
Yeah. If you have not started watching it yet, I highly recommend Deep Space Nine. I think that's the best of all of the series they've done.
I have not, but I am going to get to that someday.
Yes. And if you are interested in Romulans in general, they play a very significant role in the plot later on in the series.
Excellent. Well, I am going to have to get going because even though my iPad is plugged in, it is at 3% and keeps telling me it's going to shut off. So I will leave you with the encouragement to check out Starfleet Battles because you can download it for free. If you get into the hardcore game, you know, you and I can go in on it or whatever, but it would be a lot of fun to play.
Cool.
Especially with somebody who knows Star Trek.
Yeah, I know. I played the Star Trek collectible card game for quite a while.
Wow. But gentlemen, I'm going to have to sign off because my iPad is going to sign me off. So,
all right. Have a good night.
Again, happy Cinco de Mayo, and I hope you guys have fun painting and with the rest of the YouTube video tonight.
Yes. Have a good night, man.
All right. Good night.
Yeah, Star Trek is one of those that, like, I've just been so disappointed in, like, the direction they took it in.
Like, I think I might have the exact opposite reaction that you've had. Because when J.J. Abrams started doing the movies, I was like, this is freaking awesome.
Well, I think that my opinion of the J.J. Abrams movies is that they are very good movies, but they are very bad Star Trek.
Probably. Yeah, that might be it. But that actually influenced me to think, like, I never really cared for it. I watched it all the time with my parents when I was a kid. And I was always like, yep, that's cool. When's Star Wars coming out?
Yeah.
But I think maybe my little mind was just too, you know, and like Doctor Who. I was probably 4 or 5 when my parents were watching Doctor Who, and I just, little kid.
Yep.
It's something I need to revisit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially for, I would say, people that are non-Trekkies, Deep Space Nine is really good.
Yeah, just start there, right? So I think that's where I always, you know, I have friends that were Trekkies and always said Deep Space Nine was great. And Voyager, too, I heard was great, too.
Voyager was really different. There were like, from the Trekkie perspective, there were parts of it that were really bad. Because they definitely, like, Star Trek has this problem where it has had a lot of different writers over time, and the different writers have not always been nearly as versed in the Star Trek canon as the fan base is.
Yep.
So Voyager accidentally retconned a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I bet. There's a GW C.S. Godo was one of the authors at the Black Library. He, like, did a bunch of that stuff that was just like, what? You know, I don't know. I can't. He did something with bolters. I don't know. He did something weird that everybody's like, nope. He did a bunch of that. Nope.
Yeah, they just did some weird stuff, or not even gonna say weird. They just did some stuff in Voyager that was like this doesn't even make sense. Like, the big thing that they did that was so bad with Voyager is that they really neutered the Borg, like, really badly.
Yeah,
they made them not nearly as scary.
Yeah, I don't even know much about the Borg, but when I know they assimilate everyone, I'm like, oh, that does not sound good.
Yeah, and they're supposed to be like this nigh unstoppable force.
Yep.
And, like, just to kind of give you like the pre-post Voyager version of Star Trek, or like the Borg in Star Trek, right? Like, in the movie First Contact, one Borg ship goes to assimilate Earth. And it takes almost all of Starfleet to take down one ship.
Yeah, I remember that. I think I've seen pretty much all the movies.
Yeah. And then in Voyager, you have one Starfleet ship that is not even like it's an exploratory ship, not a like it's not a combat oriented vessel, right? Yep. It has weapons on it, but it's not a warship.
Yep.
It's like they're taking on Borg ships all the time, like, and they're like winning. Like it's stuff that like just it doesn't make sense. Like there's like they just took the power level, like the Borg were supposed to be like this like at 11 sort of power level, and they were the big scary big bad that nobody could deal with.
Yep.
And then Voyager was just like, we're just gonna bitch slap these guys all the time.
All the time. Yeah, I can see that being annoying.
Yeah.
I think Klingons sort of started out that way too, right? The race that nobody wanted to mess with.
Yeah. And then they got lightened up, and then they got pretty hardcore again in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, in one of the J.J. Abrams movies, they were like I saw where they brought that back again. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, they've cycled through a lot of different races in Star Trek to try and be like the bad guys.
Yeah.
And it was the Klingons for a while. It was the Romulans for a while. For like one season of Next Generation, they tried to make it the Ferengi, and that didn't make any sense at all.
They're like the race, right?
What?
The Ferengi are like the traders and stuff like that. Is that correct?
Yeah. And what's really funny is that they were originally introduced as like these big bads, and then later on they kind of like faded out in Next Generation. They come back in Deep Space Nine, and they're like very prevalent in Deep Space Nine, and they are the comic relief.
Yeah, that's right. That's funny.
Yeah.
Is your wife a Trekkie too?
I got her hooked on some of it. I feel like it's Next Generation. I think it's really hard to get through now. Because it was on for a long time. And the first few seasons are really bad. And then Voyager in general is pretty good. But it had like a very linear, formulaic plot line too. Like the whole point of the show is ship gets thrown to the other side of the galaxy and is trying to get home.
Yep.
And every episode is either character development, exploring some new race that they encounter, or some sort of crisis happens that, oh my God, the ship's going to be destroyed, or oh my God, we're all going to be killed. And oh, wait, never mind. We're okay. We're going to get home.
Yeah.
Like that's basically like the 3 plot lines of every episode in the show.
So it gets old fast.
Yes, it got old fast. It was interesting because they kept cycling through like new races because they were traveling. So they get to explore a lot, which Star Trek doesn't do that much. Well, at least it feels like now they don't do it that much, because after like, I don't know, like original series and Next Generation basically fleshed out everything that is anywhere near Earth. So like they had the advantage of being flung to the other side of the galaxy to explore things that they had never encountered before.
Yep. Sorry, I dropped a gray bit of plastic on a gray freaking carpet.
Ah, fabulous.
I've almost got Vulcan done.
Nice. Yeah, I think, however, it may be time to shut things down. I need to go to bed. I actually have to finish that freaking paper tomorrow, so.
That'll be fun. Well, you get to take a little break for a little while.
Yep. Anywho, it's been fun. Good luck trying to find that bit on your gray carpet.
Damn it. Should be fun.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.